Arthur D. Little is one of the key figures in the early history of chemical engineering. His introduction of unit operations as a way to define chemical engineering and a way to reorganize chemical engineering curricula is pivotal in the early history of chemical engineering. Arthur D. Little went to MIT. He didn't graduate. He went 3 years. Family ran into financial problems. He had to drop out. However, he got a job anyway as a chemist working for what was the earliest sulfite paper mill in the United States. Sulfite process transformed wood into paper instead of the older way, which used rags and stuff like that to turn it into paper. Takes a job at a paper mill in Rhode Island. It's the first one in the U.S. to use the process. The German chemist that had come over to introduce it leaves all of a sudden, and the owners turn to Little and say, "Can you operate this thing?" He essentially said, "Give me a little time and I can." He got the little time, and within a matter of months, he had the mill operating up better than what the German chemist had left it. And he became early an expert in the sulfite process of paper making. And that's sort of what got him his start. He eventually becomes a consultant to other paper making enterprises trying to introduce the sulfite process. He goes on from there to set up one of the earliest chemical engineering consulting firms in the country, working sometimes with partners, sometimes not, and introduces some other new things, cellulose products. He had a financially unsuccessful venture in introducing cellulose products in the United States. Some of his patents there eventually get bought by others who make it a financial success. When that fails, he's back in the consulting business and had in the process become involved with some of the faculty on MIT's Department of Chemistry and Chemical Engineering, particularly Walker. They were partners from 1900 to 1905 in Little's consulting firm. When he went back to MIT to take over the laboratory for applied chemistry, he maintained contacts with Little, and it was sort of the two of them working in tandem that began the process of reforming the chemical engineering curriculum at MIT along the lines of unit operations. I can say that one of the things that made Little effective in the role of pushing unit operations was the fact that he was very comfortable dealing with the public, and he knew how to use publicity. When he had been an MIT student in the early 1880s, he had published a student paper. In 1899, he's, I believe, chairman of the committee that founds the Technology Review, MIT's alumni publication. So one of the characteristics he has is this comfort in dealing with the public and a recognition that publicity can be important. And he uses his ability to become a spokesman for things for the chemical industry. He becomes the spokesman for unit operations and carries it from MIT to the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, which buys, at last, here's a way to define ourselves, and puts Little in charge of their education committee. And eventually, in the 20s, he becomes just sort of a general spokesman for the chemical industry. The one example I can think of that illustrates how Little recognized that publicity could be used to support the chemical industry and the things he wanted. He took the old saying that you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. In the early 1920s, he had his consulting firm do exactly that. Take pigs and pig byproducts, convert it into artificial silk, and weave a silk purse out of it, just for the publicity of showing chemistry can do this, or chemical engineering can do this.